promised is real because we see and we know the tomb is empty. And so we have a hope, we have a faith that is unshakable because of that. And so this morning, let me turn this thing on. There it is. So this morning in Luke 16, 1 through 13, we're going to be talking about the parable of the shrewd manager. And so the title of the sermon is, Don't Be Like This Guy, but kind of be like this guy. So, so what do you mean by that? Because, the long and short of this parable is you got a guy who is who's working for somebody, working for landowner, or working for a master, or working for company, whatever it is. And the owner comes to him and says, "Look, man, I got to fire you. You're not doing a good job. You're dishonest. You're stealing. You're this. You're that. Whatever it is. And so I'm gonna have to let you go." And so then the manager says, "Well, that's no good. I don't like that." So he does something that we're not really sure that he's okay to do. He does something that on its face looks kind of shady. It looks it looks real bad. He calls these people in and says, "How much do you owe?" And one guy's like, 900 gallons of olive oil. And I'm thinking, dude, what are you doing with all that olive oil, man? Goodness gracious. And he said, "All right, well, cut that in half and just pay us this much." Now, that the debtor is super stoked about that, right? But now, if you were the master, how would you feel? Ron, you still do the sheep? You still got it? Okay, Ron used to have a whole bunch of sheep. He was a shepherd of men and women and of sheep. And so let's say, Ron, you had 1,000 sheep, and you told Tim to go sell all these sheep for $100 a piece. I don't know if that's a good deal on sheep or if he's scamming people. I don't know. I don't think I would give much more than $100 for a sheep. So Tim goes and he says, okay, and he gets a guy to take all the sheeps, and he says, "Give me $50 a sheep." You would not be happy about that. But that's what this guy did. He cut it in half. Now, then he goes to another guy and he says, "How much do you owe?" And the guy's like, "Well, I got about 1,000 bushels of wheat or whatever." And he cuts that like by a third. He says, "Oh, write down and don't pay us all for all that. Only pay us for a little bit." You get the idea. It's kind of shady what he does. But the master comes to him at the end of that and says, "I see what you did there." And he commends him for acting shrewdly. Now, it doesn't say that he acted honestly. Doesn't say that he acted appropriately. He said you acted shrewdly. You were smart. He said, "Hey, you were smart, because what you did is that you ingratiated yourself with these people so that when I fire you, and make no mistake, I'm gonna fire you. And when I do that, at least you're in good with these folks." So we read that, and so Jesus is telling us this story. And he doesn't condemn the guy either. And kind of he challenges us to sort of act the same way. But there's this overarching kind of reality. Jesus is saying, be smart. But what he's calling into question is and this is going to be the thread that I want you to think about. So if you write anything down, write this down. What is important to you? In the life that you're living, in the decisions that you're making, in the relationships that you're cultivating, in the decision, all the things that you're doing in your life, what's most important to you? And that's a question that I think most of the stories that Jesus tells, or most of the questions that he asks, is getting to that point right there. What is the most important thing to you? And in this one, all that I can come up with is self-preservation. Is it important? Is self-preservation important for you, or kingdom advancement? So for you as an individual, for Shane, for whoever, for all that I'm speaking to, for you as a person, what's the most important thing to you? Your self-preservation, and by that I mean, your wealth, your comfort, your conveniences, what you like. So provide, making provisions for you physically, emotionally, all that is self-preservation or kingdom advancement. Now, those aren't mutually exclusive, but just because you're taking care of you doesn't mean you're taking care of the kingdom. So those are the two sides of this that I want you to think about. And I'm going to be preaching in that kind of direction. What's the most important thing for you? Self-preservation or kingdom advancement? And I don't mean like your advancement in the kingdom, like, hey, I got a promotion in the kingdom. That's not what I'm talking about. There are no promotions. We're all, we're all equal. But advancing the kingdom, expanding the kingdom. Thinking about those gates of hell that we are supposedly breaking down. The advancing that we are making in claiming the ground back for God. And that's outside of here and inside of here. How much is the kingdom advancing in your life? How much of the flesh, how much of self-preservation is the kingdom weeding out in your heart? So that's the overarching question. And so remember in all of this that when we started this whole thread of talking about the parables and evangelism and that sort of thing, we are the continuation of the life of Christ, the life and ministry of Jesus. That is what the church and the individuals who make up the church, that is what we are. We are the continuation of the life and ministry of Jesus, and he asked us to be his witnesses. And I'm kind of reviewing a little bit because I want to kind of get back to where we started, is that, we are his witnesses. We have to see something so that we can say something. We have to be people who are willing to get in the boat with Jesus so that we can be parts of the storm and then see him calm the storm. Because we're never going to have storm calming type stories to tell people unless we are in a boat with Jesus. I mean, so you got to think about like that. What are we putting ourselves in a position to see stuff? Are we putting ourselves in a position to see God, working in our lives? That's why I always say that the people who have the greatest God stories are sometimes single mothers down on financially down on their luck because they are in a position to see God work. And I think a lot of times that our self-preservation and all of our comforts and conveniences and all that, sometimes we will hinder ourselves from seeing God work because life's so good. And it's so easy to forget how much God does when things are real comfortable. And so, but we have to put ourselves in a position to see God work. We have to make decisions so that we're in that boat with him. And so one of the things that Jesus uses as we are, as we witness and, parables are used to relate the kingdom to this human experience. And so we have an opportunity to do the same thing, to live a life so that the kingdom that we speak about is evident in our life, so that we then have kingdom stories to tell people to relate this relationship that we have with God to this human experience. And so in that, there's a parable like this, which is a very difficult parable to kind of wrap our minds around. You can read books about the parables and If you read 10 of them, you're going to find 8 different explanations about what this parable is saying. And I'm going to give you a 9th. So I'm not saying that this is all that it means. I'm not even saying that this is exactly what it means. I'm just saying I want you to, I want you to think about this week. Because that's what this parable is supposed to do, is to make us think. Make us think about the lives that we're living, the decisions that we're making, and are we promoting, are we advancing the kingdom? So the first thing, the first point that I want to make is that this is a parable about Jesus saying, hey, as kingdom citizens, you need to be smart. You just need to be smart about things. Don't be dumb. Don't be naive. Don't put your head in the sand. Be smart about the way that things work. And he even says this in Matthew 10 and 16, where he talks about, it's important for us to be as shrewd as serpents, but as innocent as doves. Now, one of the things that I'm afraid that we do a lot of times in the church is that we will be as devious as a serpent and as dumb as a dove. But that's not what he wants us to be. Shrewd. He wants us to be, calculating, thinking about things. Be smart, but also be innocent. Be pure. Promote righteousness. So one of the things that a question I want to ask is, and this, we talked about this in my class this morning. Is it smart to be innovative? Now, I would say that this manager was kind of innovative with his bills, right? With his master's bills. He thought, well, let's do something a little bit different. Let's do something with these accounts that we haven't always done. Let's just cut them in half. Let's see how that works. Well, it worked out for him, and the question that I believe that we should be asking is it smart to be innovative? And the question is, what are we as a body doing to promote the kingdom? Because, the end of this parable, he's saying, look, you want to live and act and be a certain way so that you are accepted, you are welcomed, you are thought of, you have good relationships with people in this world. Now, unfortunately, I think a lot of times in the church, all we care about is having relationships with each other, which is a great thing. But we can't just be in relationships with each other in this room and neglect those who are outside of Christ. We have to be witnesses here, and in Judea, and all the parts of the world. We have to interact. We have to have relationships with those outside of Christ so that the kingdom can expand. Amen? So he's saying, what are we doing to promote the kingdom, and is it working? Is it working? Are we as a church using what we have at our disposal to, for lack of a better term, get in good with our neighbors who might be lost? What are we doing as a church to impress those outside of Christ so that we will be welcomed into their homes? Here's another question. What are we doing as individuals to promote the kingdom? What are we doing as people? How can you be innovative to use what's at your disposal? And by innovative, I mean, maybe things that aren't typically done. How do we interact with people in a new way that's going to incite a relationship with them so that, as Jesus puts it, we will be welcomed into their lives? So, think about this when, how can you be innovative with what's at your disposal? First of all, you have to ask the question, do you want to make an impact for the kingdom? You have to answer that question before, because we're all in a situation like this shrewd manager. Not that God's saying he's going to fire us, but we're all in a situation where we have opportunities to be endeared, to ingratiate ourselves, to form relationships with people. But we have to ask that question, do I even want to make an impact? Do I want to make an impact at work? Do I want to make a kingdom impact in my neighborhood? Do I want to make a kingdom impact, maybe even within your own family? Do I even want to promote advancement of the kingdom of heaven within the social circles that I'm in? I know just that, like Steve, our wonderful audio visual extraordinaire. Now Steve's back there worried now because I keep saying his name, Matt, and that makes people nervous. Caden, see, this is a powerful thing. No, Steve plays softball on Tuesday nights, or what they do could be called playing softball. I mean, there's an opportunity. Do you want to make an impact for the kingdom on your men's, let's call it what it is, your men's beer league soccer or softball team? Now, he's not out there drinking beer. I'm just saying that's what they call it because it's pretty casual. And there's a lot of beer. But do you even want to make an impact for the kingdom on your softball team? Do you want to make an impact for the kingdom at UPS? Do you want to make an impact for the kingdom at Ed Jones? Do you want to make an impact for the kingdom, with whatever you do, Ken? At the old, with other old people. But that we have to ask that. We have to answer that question. So how do you do that? How do you be smart? How do you be innovative and make and endear yourself with those at work? Well, I don't know. Are you the hardest worker at work? Are you someone at work that, because, let's get down to, just what we're talking about. I'm not, a lot of kingdom advancement isn't telling people how bad they are and what they need to change in their life. It's about us being the kind of people that other people want to be around and want to be like. Unfortunately, though, we get really super churchy and judgy, and nobody likes that. And nobody wants to be around that. But are you the hardest worker at work? Can people depend on you? When people are struggling at work, can they come to you and say, "Hey, man, can you help me out?" And you're like, "I got you, man. Let's do this. Let's get I'll get my work done and your work done, and help you get yours done." Are you a complainer? Are you somebody that's always griping, or are you a breath of fresh air? I will tell you this. There was a comment made to me in Tennessee when I was preaching there that has changed my life completely. There was a lady there, sweet lady, who, and you don't get this a lot in church, but she critiqued me as a preacher. Now, you get that a lot, but not the way that she did it. She came to me one time because I would be so stressed out. So, is the service going to be this? Is the that ready? Is blah, blah, blah. Because it's a smaller church, and I was just in charge of everything. And so I'm just always rushing, always, And she told me, she goes, "You are so negative." And I said, "No, I'm not." But I stopped, and I'm like, oh, that's terrible. I don't want to be that. That's Connie Holder. And I don't want to be that. And she's like, nobody wants to be around you like this. And I thought, well, I don't want to be around you either. And so it made me think, and I've tried, especially when I'm here, when I'm in charge of stuff, when I'm doing, I've tried to be, more positive and more, go with the flow, go whatever that is. But one of the things that she hit me with is, "Shane, you are tough to be around." First time I've really enjoyed no amens. But she hit me with, "You're tough to be around," and I had to realize that's not helping anything. That's not helping the church. That's not expanding the kingdom. We have to be people that other people want to be around, that other people enjoy company. So are we the hardest worker? Do we complain? Are we the gossip at work? Are we the holier than thou? Are we the Pharisee? Or are we loving and forgiving and merciful and all of those things? Are we making that kind of an impact? Because that's an innovative way to be welcomed into the lives of other people. And Jesus is saying, all of these things that are at your disposal. Now, we might not have, accounting ledgers at our disposal to cut in half. But you know what we do have at our disposal? We have our interactions, our working relationships, our behaviors. Are we using those to be welcomed into the lives of other people? Are we being smart with those opportunities? Are we being smart with the opportunities that we have at work, at school, in our neighborhoods, on our teams, whatever it looks like? Whatever you're in, are we being smart? And is it important for the right people to like you? Because this is what Jesus gets to at the end of that. And so when we think of the right people, who do we think about? A lot of times we think about the boss, or we think about the more affluent, or we think about the popular, or whatever. Those who can help promote us, right? Who can help me be more comfortable? Who can give me a raise? Who can loan me something? Who can do? But is it important for the right people to like us? The people that we can reach. The people that we can help, because I'm not going to get into this, but there's a lot of this that's about being smart and efficient, being innovative with our worldly wealth. Are we generous with people? Do we help people that can't help us back? Are we being smart when it comes to our influence in the kingdom? Because a lot of times the right people probably aren't who you might think. So my question to all of us, do lost people like you? Now, before you start thinking, well, I'm not doing the things lost people do to get them to like, I'm not talking about engaging in lost people behaviors. I'm just talking about you interact with lost people. You have to. By the law of averages, you have to interact with lost people. Are you being smart? Are you being innovative? Are you being shrewd with the opportunities that you have to form relationships with those people in order to expand and advance the kingdom? I think this parable, and I would encourage you to think and pray and meditate on these things. And if you come up with something different, man, let's talk about it. And I'll show you where you're incorrect. But no, let's talk, because this is what I think. What can you do with what you have to initiate positive relationships with lost people? Because that's the economy. The economy of the kingdom is souls, is people. The money that we need to inject into the kingdom of heaven are people. And so if we want to expand the economy of the kingdom of heaven, what can we as people do? How can we be smarter with the opportunities and the resources that we have to initiate positive relationships with lost people? That's all I have to say. So where are you in this? Are you a lost person? Or are you someone who needs to be more shrewd? Are you someone who needs to find more and better ways to expand the kingdom? And wherever you are in that journey, there's good news. If you're lost, the good news is that you don't have to stay lost. You don't even have to finish today being lost. If you're lost, you can be found right now. Confess Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. You don't even have to understand what that really, really means. You just have to trust that He's real and that His sacrifice on the cross is all you need. That's the foundation, that's the baseline for confessing Christ. You don't have to confess your sins. God knows what you've done. You just got to confess Christ as your Lord and Savior. And then be baptized. Be lowered into a watery grave to be lifted out, to live a new life. And if you've already done that, and you feel like that, well, man, I haven't lived up to that. The good news is that God knows that, and He's okay, not okay with you not living up, but He's still okay with you. And you just confessing that and accept the restoration of His eternal mercy. If you need to confess Christ for the first time or confess your failings, whatever you need, whether it's to be prayed for or to be prayed with, you can come up front. I'm going to be standing up here. Who's doing the elder prayer today? Reggie's going to be standing up here with me. If you don't like either one of us, I'll call on Eric or Ron. I mean, we got people. Charlie, he's here. Grant's the only slacker that's not here this morning, isn't he? I know. Well, it's good you have multiple shepherds. But whatever you need, if it's to be prayed with, prayed for, whatever you need, join us at the front as together we stand and as we sing.